Rachel Zegler's path to stardom is one that initially captured the imagination of both the public and industry professionals alike. At just 17 years old, she won the role of Maria in Steven Spielberg's highly anticipated remake of West Side Story, beating out thousands of hopefuls through an open casting call that quickly went viral. For Zegler, a theater student with no major film experience, it was a fairy tale moment that promised fame, critical acclaim, and the mentorship of one of Hollywood's most respected directors. The early stages of production seemed to affirm her Cinderella story. Her performance was widely praised, and Spielberg publicly described her as a revelation. Her angelic vocals, striking screen presence, and infectious excitement charmed interviewers and audiences alike. Media outlets heralded her as the next big thing, with Zegler even becoming a trending topic across social platforms. Her social media following skyrocketed, and talk of awards began to circulate even before the film's release. At first glance, everything seemed perfect. But while Zegler's image as a wide-eyed ingenue played well in the press, those behind the scenes painted a different picture. As filming progressed, reports began to emerge of creative tension, with Zegler allegedly challenging decisions made by seasoned professionals on set. While some crew members admired her confidence and commitment, others saw it as an unsettling display of entitlement, especially for a newcomer. What Spielberg had perhaps hoped would be a collaborative mentorship quickly devolved into a subtle power struggle that cast a long shadow over the production. Friction and fallout behind the scenes, as filming continued, whispers about Zegler's on-set behavior grew louder. Crew members described instances where she would interrupt choreography rehearsals to offer her own suggestions or challenge direction mid-shoot. While young actors questioning their surroundings is not inherently wrong, the intensity and frequency with which Zegler reportedly did this began to draw frustration. Several sources claimed that she repeatedly delayed scenes by voicing concerns about staging, camera angles, or even her costume fit, which she believed didn't match the vision she had for the character. Tensions reportedly reached a point where departments began adjusting their workflows to minimize friction. The costume team, according to insider sources, had to field constant alteration requests. The choreographers, used to working under tight schedules, found themselves forced to accommodate discussions on creative differences they hadn't anticipated. While some on set saw Zegler as passionate and committed to excellence, others saw the behavior as disruptive and, at times, disrespectful. Spielberg, known for fostering creativity and nurturing young talent, found himself in a position where his protege's actions were allegedly slowing production and creating an uncomfortable atmosphere. The situation became even more delicate when Spielberg's own demeanor began to subtly change. Publicly, he continued to support the film and the cast, but his glowing praise began shifting toward other actors, particularly Ariana DeBose, who played Anita. In interviews, Spielberg lavished DeBose with compliments, calling her performance mesmerizing, while offering far more neutral and reserved commentary about Zegler. Industry observers began to notice this shift, interpreting it as a sign that Spielberg's enthusiasm for Zegler may have waned. Though he never directly criticized her, his silence on certain issues spoke volumes in an industry where public backing can make or break a career. The Snow White misstep that changed everything following the moderate success of West Side Story, Disney's casting of Rachel Zegler as Snow White in their live-action remake was supposed to be her crowning achievement. With a budget of over $250 million and a legacy film under her belt, Zegler was expected to become one of the most visible faces of the next generation of Hollywood royalty. But what followed was a series of promotional disasters, miscommunications, and viral backlash that would ultimately derail the momentum of her budding career. The trouble began during the early press runs, where Zegler's interviews raised eyebrows among fans and media alike. In one instance, she referred to the original 1937 animated Snow White as creepy, particularly criticizing the dynamic between Snow White and the prince. She questioned the message of a woman waiting for love to save her and framed the remake as a modern, feminist reimagining. While these points may have held weight in academic or cultural discussions, presenting them so bluntly during promotional interviews alienated the film's nostalgic fan base and fueled a narrative that she was dismissive of the original's charm. As clips from these interviews went viral, they were dissected and mocked across social platforms. Meme culture turned Zegler into a symbol of Hollywood overcorrection, with videos comparing the Snow White remake to the upcoming Minecraft film gaining millions of views. When Zegler attempted to downplay the backlash by joking that audiences were simply more excited for Minecraft, it only added fuel to the fire. Instead of coming off as lighthearted or self-aware, the comments were interpreted as tone-deaf, and the internet was quick to pounce. Behind the scenes, Disney reportedly scrambled to perform damage control. Executives held emergency PR meetings, and additional media training was scheduled. However, the film's release was met with widespread criticism. Audiences panned the changes to the story, questioned the reimagined dwarfs as magical creatures, and lambasted Zegler's performance as cold and disconnected. What was supposed to be her breakthrough role into mainstream superstardom, instead, became the catalyst for a career crisis. Spielberg's silence and the whispered blacklist the Hollywood rumor mill, always alive with speculation, grew louder with each passing week. But one voice that remained notably absent from the conversation was Steven Spielberg's. Once her most high-profile supporter, Spielberg refrained from making any public statements either defending or condemning Zegler. While he praised other collaborators in recent projects and continued to attend public events, his silence on Zegler was viewed by many in the industry as deliberate. Insiders began pointing to this as a quiet, strategic withdrawal. Spielberg's early involvement in launching Zegler's career meant that his continued endorsement could have helped her weather the storm. The fact that he didn't step forward to offer even a token of support was interpreted as a signal, one that Hollywood's power players were quick to pick up on. In a town where reputations are currency, Spielberg's silence functioned as an unspoken warning. Tread carefully with this rising star. Soon, casting rumors began to shift. Studios that had previously expressed interest in Zegler reportedly started pulling back. Names that once included her on shortlists for major roles quietly removed her from consideration. This process, never formalized but devastatingly effective, is what many refer to as the soft blacklist. It isn't a ban, per se, but a pattern of avoidance that gradually freezes someone out of opportunity. Producers, writers, and directors began to ask the same question. Is it worth the risk? In an industry built on collaboration, the perception of being difficult can be more damaging than any failed performance. As Zegler's name faded from casting conversations, it became increasingly clear that her meteoric rise had hit a wall, one constructed not by scandal alone, but by the intricate web of professional relationships she had failed to maintain. The crossroads of redemption and reflection. Rachel Zegler's story is now at a crossroads. Her journey from YouTube performer to Spielberg's chosen starlet, then to the embattled lead of a controversial Disney remake, reads like a modern parable of fame. In an era defined by virality, public perception, and instant feedback, her missteps were amplified beyond what might have been manageable even a decade ago. But just as Hollywood can swiftly cast someone out, it also loves a comeback. The question remains, will Zegler craft her own redemption arc? Experts suggest that rebuilding her reputation will require deliberate, strategic choices. Instead of chasing blockbuster roles, she may need to pivot to smaller, independent films where she can hone her craft and collaborate in environments less prone to media scrutiny. Public relations experts agree that the first step toward recovery is acknowledgement, whether through a thoughtful interview, a statement of reflection, or simply time away from the spotlight. Demonstrating growth, humility, and a renewed respect for collaboration could make a significant difference. Some believe that her youth works in her favor. At just 23, Zegler has time to learn from the past and emerge stronger. Many now respected actors have gone through similar phases early in their careers. What will make or break Zegler's trajectory is how she chooses to respond, with defensiveness and denial, or with authenticity and a willingness to evolve. The industry may be watching warily, but it's still watching, and that means there's still a chance. Conclusion. From spotlight to scrutiny, and what comes next. Rachel Zegler's journey from obscurity to prominence, and from prominence to controversy, encapsulates many of the contradictions at the heart of modern celebrity. Her story reflects the speed at which stardom can be attained, the power of being chosen by Hollywood royalty, and the intense scrutiny that follows when public behavior doesn't align with the narrative fans and executives have come to expect. Whether Zegler's behind-the-scenes behavior was the assertiveness of a confident artist or the overreach of an inexperienced newcomer is still debated. But what's clear is that the reaction to her actions, both within the industry and among audiences, has permanently altered the arc of her career. Talent may open doors, but maintaining trust, humility, and professionalism is what keeps them open. As Spielberg's once prized Discovery fights to reclaim her place in an unforgiving industry, her next steps will determine whether she's remembered as a lost opportunity or a comeback queen. In the ever-changing tides of Hollywood, a fall from grace is not always the end, but it is a test. For Rachel Zegler, that test has only just begun.